At the outbreak of hostilities during World War One in Europe, the German East Asia Squadron, commanded by Admiral Maximilian von Spee, was outclassed and outgunned by the Royal Navy and the Imperial Japanese Navy. Spee and the German High Command did not believe that Germany's Asian possessions could be defended and doubted the squadron could even survive in the theater. Spee wanted to get his ships home and began by heading southeast across the Pacific, although he was pessimistic about their chances. Spee's fleet would go on to win the Battle of Cornell off the coast of Cornell, Chile, on the 1st of November 1914, where his ships managed to sink the cruisers HMS Good Hope, Admiral Craddock's flagship, and the cruiser Mammoth. After the battle, on the 3rd of November, Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, and Nuremberg entered Vespuccio harbor and were welcomed as heroes by the German population. Von Spee declined to join in the celebrations. When presented with a bouquet of flowers, he refused them, commenting that these will do nicely for my grave. As required under international law for belligerent ships in neutral countries, the ships left within 24 hours, moving to Mas Afria, 400 miles off the Chilean coast. There, they received news of the loss of the cruiser SMS Emden, which had previously detached from the squadron, had been raiding in the Indian Ocean. They also learnt of the fall of the German colony at Qingdao in China, which had been their home port. On the 15th of November, the squadron moved to Baja San Quentin on the Chilean coast, where a ceremony was held to award 300 Iron Crosses second class to crew members and an Iron Cross to Admiral von Spee. Spee's officers counseled a return to Germany. The squadron had used half of its ammunition at Cornell. The supply could not be replenished, and it was difficult even to obtain coal. Intelligence reports suggested that the British ships HMS Defence, Cornwall, and Carnarvon were stationed in the River Plate, and that there had been no British warships at Stanley when recently visited by a steamer. Spee had been concerned about reports of a British battleship, Canopus, but its location was unknown. On the 26th of November, the squadron set sail for Cape Horn, which they reached on the 1st of December, then anchored at Pynchon Island, where they stayed for 3 days, distributing coal from a captured British coiler, the Dromere, and hunting. On the 6th of December, the British vessel was scuttled and its crew transferred to the auxiliary cruiser Seydlitz. The same day, Spee proposed to raid the Falkland Islands before setting course for Germany. The raid was unnecessary because the squadron now had as much coal as it could carry. Most of Spee's captains opposed the raid, but he nevertheless decided to proceed. On the 30th of October, retired Admiral of the Fleet Sir John Fisher was reappointed First Sea Lord to replace Admiral Prince Louis of Battenberg, who had been forced to resign because of public outcry against a perceived German prince in the British Navy, though Louis had been British and in the Royal Navy since the age of 14. On the 3rd of November, Fisher was advised that Spee had been sighted off at Vespuccio and acted to reinforce Craddock by ordering defense already sent to patrol the eastern coast of South America to reinforce the squadron. On the 4th of November, news of the defeat at Cornell arrived. The blow to the British naval prestige was palpable, and the British public was rather shocked. As a result, the battlecruisers Invincible and Inflexible were ordered to leave the Grand Fleet and sail for Plymouth for overhaul and preparations for service abroad. Chief of Staff of the Admiralty was Vice Admiral Devant Sturdy. Fisher had a long-standing disagreement with Sturdy, who had been one of those calling for his earlier dismissal as First Sea Lord in 1911. So he took the opportunity to appoint Sturdy Commander-in-Chief of the South Atlantic and Pacific to command the new squadron from Invincible. On the 11th of November, Invincible and Inflexible left Devonport, although repairs to Invincible were incomplete, and she sailed with workmen still aboard. Despite the urgency of the situation and their maximum speed of around 25 knots, the ships were forced to cruise at 10 knots to conserve coal in order to complete the long journey south across the Atlantic. The two ships were also heavily loaded with supplies, although secrecy of the mission was considered important so as to surprise Spee. Lieutenant Hist from Glasgow heard locals discussing the forthcoming arrival of the ships while on shore at Cape Verde on the 17th of November. However, the news did not reach Spee. Sturdy arrived at the Auros Rocks on the 26th of November, where Rear Admiral Archibald Peely Stobart awaited him with the remainder of the squadron. Sturdy announced his intention to depart for the Falkland Islands on the 29th of November. From there, the fast light cruisers at Glasgow and Bristol would patrol seeking Spee, summoning reinforcements if they found him. Captain Luce of Glasgow, who had been at the Battle of Cornwall, objected that there was no need to wait so long, and persuaded Sturdy to depart a day early. The squadron was delayed during the journey for 12 hours, when a cable towing targets for practice firing became wrapped around one of Invincible's propellers. But the ships arrived on the morning of the 7th of December. The two light cruisers moored in the inner part of Stady Harbor, while the larger ships remained in the deeper outer harbor of Port William. Divers set about removing the offending cable from Invincible. Cornwall's boiler fires were extinguished to make repairs, and Bristol had one of her engines dismantled. The famous ship, SS Great Britain, reduced it to a coal bunker, supplied coal to Invincible and Inflexible. The armed merchant cruiser, Macedonia, was ordered to patrol the harbor, while Kent maintained steamer boilers, ready to replace Macedonia the next day. On the 8th of December, Spee's fleet arrived in the morning of the same day. An unlikely source of intelligence on the movement of the German ships was from Miss Merle Felton, wife of the manager of the sheep station at Fitzroy, and her maids Christina Gross and Marianne Macronde. They were alone when Felton received a telephone call from Port Stanley, advising that German ships were approaching the islands. The maids took turns riding to the top of the nearby hill to record the movements of the ships, which Felton relayed to Port Stanley by telephone. Her reports allowed Bristol and Macedonia to take up the best positions to intercept. The Admiralty later presented the woman with silver plates, and Felton received an OBE for her actions. The British battlecruisers each mounted 8 12-inch 305mm guns, whereas Spee's best ships, Scharnhorst and Eisenhower, were equipped with 8 210mm 8.3-inch pieces. Additionally, the battlecruisers could make 25.5 knots, against Spee's 22.5 knots. Thus, the British battlecruisers not only significantly outgunned their opponents, but could also outrun them. The obsolete pre-dreadnought battleship HMS Canopus had been grounded at Stanley to act as a makeshift defense battery for the area. Spee's cruisers, Gneisenau and Nuremberg, approached Stanley first, At the time, most of the British fleet was coaling, but under short notice to steam. Some believe that had Spee pressed the attack, sturdy ships would have been easy targets. Although this is a subject of conjecture, as two ships were under steam, acting as guard ships, and the battleship Canopus was also present. The Germans were surprised by gunfire from an unexpected source, the Canopus, which had been grounded as a guard ship and been behind a hill. This was enough to check the Germans' advance. The sight of this distinctive tripod mass of German battlecruisers confirmed that they were facing a better equipped enemy. HMS Kent was already making her way out of the harbor and had been ordered to pursue Spee's ships. Made aware of the German ships, Sturdy had ordered the crews to breakfast, knowing that Canopus had brought them time while steam was rising. To Spee, with his crew battle-weary and his ships outgunned, and outcome seeming inevitable, realizing his danger too late, and having lost any chance to attack the British ships while they were at anchor, Spee and his squadron dashed for the open sea. The British left port around 10 a.m. Spee was ahead by 15 miles, with the German ships in line abreast, heading southeast. But there was plenty of daylight left for the faster battlecruisers to catch up. It was 1300 hours when the British battlecruisers opened fire, but it took them half an hour to get the range of SMS Leipzig. Realizing that he could not outrun the British ships, Spee decided to engage them with his armored cruisers alone, to give the light cruisers a chance to escape. He turned to fight just after 1320. The German armored cruisers had the advantage of a freshening northwest breeze, which caused the funnel of smoke to the British ships to obscure their targets partially throughout the action. Gneisenau's second-in-command, Hans Punchenhammer, indicated that there was a long respite for the Germans during the early stages of the battle, as the British attempted unsuccessfully to force Admiral Spee away from his intavish position. Despite initial success by Scharnhorst and Gneisenau in striking Invincible, the British capital ships suffered little damage. Spee then turned to escape, but the battlecruisers came within extreme firing range at about 40 minutes later. HMS Invincible and HMS Inflexible engaged Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, with Sturdy detached his cruisers to chase down the Leipzig and the Nuremberg. HMS Invincible and HMS Inflexible turned to fire broadsides at the armored cruisers, and Spee responded by trying to close the range. His flagship, SMS Scharnhorst, took extensive damage with funnels, flattened, fires, and a massive list. The list became worse at 1604, and she sank by 1617, taking von Spee and the entire crew with her. SMS Gneisenau continued to fire and evade until 1715, by which time her ammunition had been exhausted, and she was sunk by 1802. During her death throes, Admiral Sturdy continued to engage SMS Gneisenau with both his two battlecruisers and the cruiser HMS Carnarvon, rather than detaching one of the battlecruisers to hunt down the escaping Dresden. 190 of SMS Gneisenau's crew were rescued from the water. Both of the British battlecruisers had received about 40 hits between them from the German ships, with one crewman killed and 4 injured. Meanwhile, Nuremberg and Leipzig had run from the British cruisers. Nuremberg was running at full speed but in need of maintenance, while the crew of the pursuing Kent was pushing her boilers and engines to the limit. Nuremberg finally turned for battle at 1730. Kent had the advantage in shell weight and armor. Nuremberg suffered 2 boiler explosions around 1830, giving the advantage in speed and maneuverability to the Kent. The German ship then rolled over and sank at 1927, after a long chase. The cruisers HMS Glasgow and HMS Cornwall had chased down the Leipzig. Glasgow closed to finish Leipzig, which had run out of ammunition, but was still flying her battle ensign. Leipzig fired two flares, so Glasgow ceased fire. At 21:23, more than 80 miles southeast of the Falklands, she also rolled over and sank, leaving only 18 survivors. During the course of the main battles, Sturdy had detached Captain Falsaw on HMS Bristol, together with the HMS Macedonia, to destroy the coilers. The Baden and the Santa Isabel were chased, stopped, and after removing the crews, sunk by the Bristol and the Macedonia at 1900 hours. Cedits had taken a separate course and managed to escape. Casualties and damage were extremely disproportionate. The British suffered only very lightly. Admiral Spee and two of his sons were among the German dead. Rescued German survivors, 215 in total, became prisoners on the British warships. Most were from the Gneisenau, 9 were from Nuremberg, and 18 were from Leipzig. Scharnhorst was lost with all hands. One of Gneisenau's officers, who lived, had been the sole survivor of 3 different guns on the battered cruiser. He was pulled from the water saying he was the first cousin of the British commander, Stoddart, although accounts on this are varying. Of the known German forces of 8 ships, 2 managed to escape: the auxiliary cruiser Ceditz and the light cruiser Dresden, which roamed at large for a further 3 months before her captain was cornered by a British squadron consisting of Kent, Glasgow, and Aroma off the June Fitzgerald's Islands on the 14th of March 1915. After fighting a short battle, Dresden's captain evacuated his ship and scuttled her by detonating the main ammunition magazine. As a consequence of the battle, the East Asia Squadron, Germany's only permanent overseas naval formation, effectively ceased to exist. Commerce raiding on the high seas by regular warships of the Kaiserliche Marine was brought to an end. However, Germany put several merchant vessels, armed for that matter, into service as commerce raiders until the end of the war. After the battle, German naval experts were baffled at why Admiral Spee even attacked the base, and how the 2 squadrons could have met so coincidentally in so many thousand miles of open waters. Kaiser Wilhelm II's handwritten note on the official report of the battle reads, "It remains a mystery on what made Spee attack the Falkland Islands. See Mahon's naval strategy." It was generally believed that Spee was misled by the German Admiralty into attacking the Falklands, a Royal Naval fueling base, after receiving intelligence from the German wireless station at Vesperso, which reported the port free of Royal Navy warships. Despite the objection of 3 of his ship's captains, Spee proceeded to attack. However, in 1925, a German naval officer and senior Kriegsmarine spy, Franz von Rittenau, interviewed Admiral Wilhelm Rendell Hall, director of the Admiralty's Naval Intelligence Division, or NID, and was informed that Spee Squadron had been lured towards the British battlecruisers by means of a fake signal sent in a German naval code broken by British cryptographers and sent on a purloined German telegraph form. A similar instance would happen on the 14th of March 1915, when the SMS Dresden was intercepted by British warships while taking on coal at sea, in a location identified by NID codebreakers. The wreck of the SMS Scharnhorst would be discovered on the 4th of December 2019, almost 105 years after her sinking. Approximately 98 nautical miles southeast of Stanley, at a depth of about 1,600 meters. The wreck of the SMS Scharnhorst remains today as the only one of the ships sunk at the Battle of the Falkland Islands to be discovered. And as a photo showed up on screen now, she remains one of the most well-preserved shipwrecks of that time. If you want a full breakdown of her current position or current status, I would highly recommend checking out the video that Scanly History made in regards to the wreck of the Scharnhorst. It is highly recommended, and I do highly recommend it. It was posted about 5 months ago, and even then, the footage is still well worth it. In all, with this video now coming to an end, I hope everybody enjoyed, and I do hope that you guys learned something new about it. The video to Skinny History's video will be down in the description below. And with that being said, please hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and maybe put a like on the video if you did enjoy it. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please do put those down in the comments below. Please ring the notification bell, hit the like button, and with that being said, I hope you all enjoy, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.